Hi, welcome to the 14-day weather forecast. It's the equinox on Friday the 23rd, so autumn proper will well and truly be underway. But will the weather be paying heed to that or not? Well, I'll start by taking a look at the view across Europe and the North Atlantic. The animation runs from 18 GMT, Tuesday the 20th. And at the outset, the key feature is this area of high pressure. It's bringing dry weather to much of the UK, although patchy outbreaks of rain are pushing into the northwest there from the Atlantic. Now, in the short term, not a great deal changes, but the high pressure does begin to decline southeastwards into continental Europe. Then as we head through Thursday and into Friday, outbreaks of rain start pushing down from the northwest. There is some uncertainty about how fast they're going to be making their way across the country, but on this GFS run, there are some heavy bursts here being shown in northern and western counties on Thursday evening. The rain continues through Friday, it slowly clears away. It could still be lingering in the southeastern corner into Saturday. As I say, that's something to keep an eye on as the time approaches because different computer model runs are taking that rain away at different rates. But then, once it does move away, there could be a few showers in places through Saturday and into Sunday. Then it's all eyes on the north because we see outbreaks of rain pushing southeastwards early next week and colder air following them. So quite a lot happening there. And the air mass animation for the same period illustrates things quite well. To begin with, as I say, there's this area of high pressure. It's not particularly warm, the air underneath it. But as it slips away, the greens are replaced by yellows for a time. But then through the second half of the week, that very cold for the time of year, at least air moves down from the Arctic and temperatures would expect to be falling quite sharply at the ground level if this is what happens. Let's take a look at them. 15 GMT, Wednesday the 21st, not too bad at all. 21 Celsius there in central and eastern counties, even in northeastern Scotland up to 20. Going forwards to Friday, as the outbreaks of rain are pushing down, temperatures are taking a little bit of a dip, 18s, 19s, 20s, so still not too bad in the south and southeast there, a little bit cooler in the northwest as the showery conditions follow in behind that rain. Moving forwards to Sunday, 17s, 18s across southern and central counties, cooler there in the northwest, down into single figures. But it's really into the early part of next week when that colder air makes its way down across the UK, at least according to the GFS. Forecast minimums here, 06 GMT, Tuesday the 27th, dipping below freezing in places there, and air frost in some of the north. Even in southern counties, 3-4 Celsius, very cold compared to how it has been recently, the potential for ground frost to become quite widespread. Into the afternoon of Tuesday, it's a cool picture. 12s, 13s, 14s in southern and central Britain, 8s, 9s, 10s in the north. So quite a big change on the way there according to the GFS, but some uncertainty about the details, particularly with the timing of that rain as it moves southeastwards. And I think also, to be fair, the intensity of that cold plunge down from the north, because GFS sometimes has a tendency to overcook those a little bit, and we see that high pressure builds in from the west more quickly than it suggests, but I'll discuss that in a little bit more detail later. Rainfall. Days 0 to 5, ECM on the left, GFS on the right. There are some differences here between the two model projections. GFS tends to have the rain focused across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and into the northeast. Much smaller amounts in the rest of England and Wales, although in the southeastern corner the amounts are a little bit higher as well. ECM, a more even distribution. Days 0 to 10. At this point, the totals have increased on both of the projections. ECM generally showing a wetter picture. reasonably even distribution of rain across the UK. In fact, some of the highest totals there are in the far southeast as well as the northwest, which is where they are typically found. GFS on the right, similar to a degree, but the highest totals there across Scotland and Northern Ireland, although there are some suggestions also of significant amounts of rain just in the far southeast of England. So, at the end of the first week, how do the deterministic models compare with each other? In particular, are they all showing a sharp northerly plunge, an early season one, albeit like the GFS is? So this is Tuesday the 27th. High pressure to the west, the southwest building in the Atlantic there. This cold air sweeping southwards. The Canadian model shows something a little bit different, but very similar. There's the northerly plunge. Likewise, with the German icon, if anything, the northerly push here is a sharper one. The high pressure is centered a little bit further west, so the UK is closer to the core of it. The Arctic blast, that is, if we can call it that at this time of the year. The ECM also has a northerly flow, high pressure there in the Atlantic. And finally, the UK Met Office, a little bit different in terms of the details. The general picture is rather similar, focus. We've got high pressure to the west, building northwards there in the Atlantic, and more of a northwesterly moving down across the UK. All in all, though, reasonably good consistency between those deterministics. Winds on all of them coming from a northerly quadrant. Differences, whether it's direct from the Arctic or much more of a northwesterly flow like on the UK Met Office model here. Not very warm though on any of them. Temperatures probably trending below average, showery conditions likely, and with low pressure centred to the east of the UK, it could well be that the heaviest showers of greatest risk of longer spells of rain is in eastern Britain. Well, that takes us to the end of week one, but how are things looking through week two? Trends and probabilities as ever at this range. I always make that clear. It's very important, of course, not to focus on the details. Here is the 16-day GEFS plot for London. Now, one of the comments that people make sometimes is that I often talk about temperatures being above the average. I don't have a bias towards those, of course, but the fact is that more often than not through the course of this year, that is what the data has been forecasting. When it's something a little bit different, like it is at the moment, I'll highlight that. So here are the air temperatures for London, and there's a thick black line, the 30-year average. The thick purple line, the ensemble mean, is below it for much of the second week. Hence, slightly below average air mass temperatures. Towards the end there, the purple line does tick upwards and it climbs above the black line for a few days, just a little bit. But the general theme through the second week is for slightly below average temperatures at the 850 HPA level, so 1,500 meters or so above our heads. Rainfall across the bottom, some spikes continue to show throughout. There are one or two big ones there. But all in all, it's not looking particularly wet. The 2-meter temperature data table for London, this highlights things quite nicely. There isn't a very sharp trend here. It's fairly consistent throughout. This shade of orange, 16s to 20s being dominant, perhaps cooler early on and something of a warming theme as we go into the second half of the second week. Still one or two much warmer runs in the mix with 21 to 25, but the majority going for rather cool conditions early on, perhaps recovering later. Remember though, these are the temperatures for London. If you look at comparable plots for more rural areas and into the Midlands, the values are likely to be a little bit lower. Up to Manchester to see the picture further northwest. The air mass profile is very similar. It's below the 30-year average for much of the second week. Also, the rain plot across the bottom is suggesting there is going to be some rain around, but it's not particularly wet. The 2-metre temperature data table for Manchester, not a great deal different to the London one in terms of trends, but at a slightly lower level. The yellow is dominant, so 11s to 15s, as opposed to 16s to 20s on the London. But there is a warming trend here. Later on, the orange for 16s to 20s start to form the majority on 1 or 2 days at least. Up to Glasgow, and the air mass profile is a little bit different here. The temperatures for it start below the average, but they recover more quickly than they do on the London and Manchester plots. So I've annotated it as being close to average, taken over the entire week. The rain spikes along the bottom there, quite similar. A risk of rain, but not very wet. I think generally a reasonable amount of consistency between the 3 plots in terms of air mass temperatures, but probably warming up back to the average a little bit quicker in the northwest of the UK. That could well be to do with high pressure starting to topple in from the Atlantic. Taking a look at the 2-metre temperatures for Glasgow, not really a trend here though, despite that somewhat warmer upper level there. The yellows dominant throughout, 11s to 15s, a little bit of green there, the 6 to 10s, and some of the orange 16s to 20s, but the vast majority of runs throughout the week are in the 11 to 15 bucket. Not particularly warm in Glasgow, even if upper air temperatures start to recover later on, as the previous chart was suggesting. The GEFS 10-day mean surface level pressure plot. So Friday, the 30th of September, the last day of the month, of course, it's averaging out all of the individual runs within the ensemble, and the signal perhaps is for high pressure to be to the west, the southwest of UK, maybe a west or northwesterly or even a northerly flow moving down across the country. Not particularly warm if it's right, perhaps driest in the west, wettest in the east, with showers close to areas of low pressure. The European ensemble, very similar at the same time. And I think it's just worth taking a look at the postage stamp plot for this for the same time, so September the 30th. The chart shows all of the individual runs in the GEFS at this time, and maybe it's easier if you just pause the video if you want to look at them in detail. I think the general theme though is for high pressure to be centred to the west or the southwest of the UK. It could well be building northwards though at times, and if that is the case, it supports the idea which the ensemble mean was pointing towards of winds coming from a northwesterly or northerly direction at this point. Finally, the mean surface level pressure data table for York through the second week. So the postage stamp chart was for the 30th. In the days which follow, the signal from this is for pressure to be rising. Perhaps, I'm being speculative at this point, it could be that high pressure is building in from the Atlantic across the UK. Were that to be the case, it could lead to drier conditions further down the line, initially in the west at least, and then moving across the country. And that really ties in with some of the other data which I've been discussing. So, to summarise the next 2 weeks, it's a dry start in week 1, but then rain returns, and there is a degree of uncertainty about how quickly that will clear away southeastwards. It could be lingering in parts of eastern England into Saturday. There's a dry interlude to follow it for much of the UK, although there could be a few showers around. But through Sunday and Monday, it looks as though a band of rain will be sweeping southwards, and it will be followed by colder air from the north. That could lead to risk of night frost and also showers, which would be turning wintry over the Scottish mountains. Week 2, it starts rather chilly and showery. Through the week though, it looks as though there are going to be a reasonable amount of dry periods, but there is an ongoing possibility of rain. The wettest conditions could well become focused on the east as high pressure starts to build in from the west. After that coldish start, temperatures probably recover slowly and back to the average towards the end of the period. So there we have it. Quite an autumnal feel, I think, during the next 2 weeks, at least at times, as that northerly plunge makes its way down across the country. Uncertainty about the intensity of it, though, as I mentioned, with the GFS probably, well, possibly at least, overstating it. Nonetheless, it could be something to blow away the cobwebs, at least for a couple of days. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Thanks for watching now. Bye.